So we are back for another of our review episodes on Project Peak Performance. We've got the full squad today. How are you, gents?
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And it's great to have a full squad to review what was an incredible episode with Alex, who, as the title suggests, didn't eat for 5 days, fasted for a lengthy period of time. But the episode gave us so many takeaways from mindset, resilience, sustaining, getting yourself through a period of time mentally as well as physically. Where to even begin? Alex, Dave, Ian, you co-hosted the episode. What were your main takeaways from it?
Yeah, I've been quite into fasting for quite a while, but the intermittent fasting. So I do a lot of like 12 till 8 sort of daily fasts. And I do find the clarity mentally more than anything else that has a big impact. So to see Alex going through his 5-day fast was really eye-opening, because I've always known that he takes his fasting really seriously and he does the prep work before, does the prep work afterwards. So I think when me and Dave were going through the 24-hour segments of like, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 day, that was the most interesting, how he felt at different points and how he felt by day 5, knowing that days 3 and 4 were the toughest, that actually he felt he could have gone on for 7 days if he really needed to. So, yeah. And Dave, you had a moment where you were like, with obviously the things that you're going through at the moment, dietary, you were like, wow, this could be a win. This could be a fix.
It was, mate. It was. I mean, similar to you, it was more the stages. I've done fasting for a very long time now, intermittent fasting in the day, so I restrict how much I eat between certain periods of time. But what was really refreshing to know from it, from the experience of Russell and everything he'd learned, was the different stages that your body starts to do different things. So I think it was gut in 24 hour, dopamine in 48 hour, and it's 72 hours onwards is when your body starts producing the stem cells, which start to rejuvenate and repair the body. So the longer period you can leave that in, obviously with being safe, the better it's going to be for rejuvenating all throughout your body. That for me was like a big eye opener, and something that we went on to do. In fact, we all ended up doing. We all ended up doing a couple of days. I ended up backing out of it. I'll let everybody know now. I was poorly sick, so I ended up doing, I don't know, maybe 80% of it, and you guys continued on to the 100%. But it was absolutely fascinating to learn the different stages your bodies go through based on different times. That for me, that was a huge eye opener. I've never heard anything like that before, so it was nice to be able to put it into segments. So yeah, that was my biggest takeaway and what I took away from it and started using and implementing myself.
So that's the co-hosts, Rob, Alex. Obviously, we had the pleasure of listening in, and as I was listening, there were so many questions that I had going through my head, and then either Ian or Dave jumped in and asked them. So I was like, okay, great, we've got that out. But what about you guys? What did you get from it?
Over to you, Alex.
I suppose the stages of what the body went through was the bit that stood out most, and especially that sort of obviously personally did a 3-day fast, but that 3 to 5 day period where suddenly stem cells created and it goes and sort of finds parts of the body where it's going to help fix. And he sort of had the Achilles story of someone that after on the 5th day started feeling tingling in their Achilles somewhere where they'd always had an injury, and then suddenly they haven't had that issue since. So that was a fascinating part and made me think, well, 3 days was a bit of an easy way out. Then I need to do 5 next time. I think it was quite nice. Obviously, he's quite structured with how he does his fasting. But again, talked about at the weekend, he has his curry night and a few beers. And, you need that balance rather than completely 100% strict. So it's quite nice probably for people to hear that as well.
How about you, Rob?
A bit like Dave had. I've done fasting for quite some time now, and I've done like 24, 48, 72 before, at one time before, but I did a bit more like Ian was saying, more for like inflammation, resetting, gut, rather than anything else. So to hear the more clinical side to it from someone who's gone through that quite regularly and is used to doing that and actually done the 5 day, it was quite nice, about the dopamine side to it. Big, that really sparked it. and also the stem cell side to it. I'll be honest with you, like since we've done ours, I've had issues with my back for running for quite a few years, and even just from our part to it, the inflammation on that lower back, I haven't had any issues since my runs.
Wow.
And that's like, and you know, I did a 26k run on Sunday, 5k on Saturday. I've just done 8k this morning. Usually I'd be having to stretch a lot more and stuff like that. And I know obviously he said it was like 72, but for whatever, it's that inflammation has been massively reduced.
Yeah. Wow.
That's powerful. Love that.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Wow. What about you, James? What was your takeaways?
Go on, Alex. Did you?
No, sorry. I was just going to, obviously, Dave. Sorry, Dave mentioned about intermittent fasting and how he'd done that for quite a while. Obviously, Alex alluded to the fact that if you get that, your body used to that consistent timescales that you're eating in, it sort of almost resets itself. It gets used to a new threshold, and maybe the more intermittent way of, you know, the 5-day fast, the 3-day fast, shocking your body and not sure where it's going to go is maybe more effective. Has that changed the way that you see how you're going to sort of deal with your nutrition side, or are you carrying on with the intermittent fasting?
I'm continuing with the intermittent fasting. It's something that I adapted, I don't know, mate, to be fair, probably about 2 years ago now. And it was loosely done at first, and then it became really strict. And it's something that I've just found myself doing now. Nowadays, I think I'm trained that well. I just don't get hungry until like 1 o'clock. And I tend to eat before 7 o'clock anyway. So it makes it absolutely ideal for me to just stick to it. I find now, one thing I do find actually after following the intermittent fasting for so long is if I eat in the morning, it knackers me up. If I have breakfast, like let's say, let's go and get full English breakfast or whatever, come 2 o'clock, I'm good for absolutely nothing. It does not benefit me to eat in the morning at all. So that's one thing that I've massively noticed. Unlike Rob, I didn't notice any other areas of change in the window that I did. I mean, I only did, what was it, just over 2.5 days instead of the 3 I think we all went in for. But no, I didn't notice any of that. But on the intermittent fasting side of things, I've noticed some huge changes. And it makes me think a little bit about maybe setting these things. Do our bodies like, I know when we looked at sleep, we've had sleep doctors on, we've had all different types of these professionals. I'm wondering if synchronicity is a huge thing that we should be looking at with regards to the times we're eating. If you can try and keep it consistent, because your body loves to know exactly what's going on and where we're going. And just like sleep, it's really important to stick to a sleep time. I wonder if that's also as important with regards to food times. I mean, what do you guys reckon? Do you get used to it over time?
I think you do get used to it. I've learned that your body can pretty much adapt to anything within 3 days.
Yeah.
So if someone starts intermittent fasting and they're going to stop eating breakfast, start eating at 12, it takes them 3 days to get to that point that you spoke about where you sink. So if I go on holiday and I have breakfast, because it's an all-inclusive, I'm having breakfast with the kids, then I want to come back to the 12 till 8 fasting. It takes me 3 days to stop being hungry at breakfast time, and then I'm kind of synced back in. So I don't know whether the answer is, do you want to be in sync? Or as Alex kind of potentially suggested, should you be constantly shocking your body out of sync? It's a bit like going to the gym and doing the same workout on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday every week. You won't grow. Your body will get used to it. You actually need to shock the body and change the workout and change the routine. Same with running, really. But I don't know the science enough to know whether that's the same for fasting.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try that, because I'm the same as you. I've done 12 to 8 for probably about 8 or 9 years now, and I'm now starting to mix that up in accordance to the running schedule that I've got. So this morning, for example, I had breakfast, whereas I normally wouldn't do, but I'll stop eating earlier today and then sort of do it in a little bit of a different sort of mix up window. But like Rob said, I was obviously in the middle of doing these marathons, and I was getting a really horrible trapped nerve niggle in my left upper glute after like 3 marathons, and it was really painful. And after the fast, I didn't feel it again, and I haven't felt it since.
Wow.
And I haven't done, and obviously I didn't stop doing the marathons. I was in the middle of doing them. So it's the only difference was that basically that I can put it down to is we did that fast, and it just worked through that trapped nerve or that injury or that damage, whatever it was, which was unbelievable, really. You know, it was pretty cool. I did something slightly different though in my fast, because on day 2 I started hitting the sauna. So day 2 I went to the sauna, and we were joking about it in the group. We didn't know whether it was a good idea or bad, and then I looked at it and it said it was all right. I was struggling until I went to the sauna, and then I was top of the tree after that. Like, I was just living the dream after the sauna. Went the next day. I could have easily carried on past 72 hours, because I went to the sauna the next morning. I did gym, I did some light weights, sort of just carried on regular life rather than sort of sitting on the sidelines a little bit while we were doing it. That actually helped me. I don't know about you guys. How did Alex, you were at the same time slot, I think, as me, weren't you? 72 hours. How did you sort of find that last 24 hours, bud? Interwebber's frozen for Alex, so
oh, he's back.
He's back.
I don't think he heard that. So for the listeners who were listening to this recording, unfortunately, Alex is sat at a hotel at the moment with dodgy internet by the look of things. Yeah. So how did you find your 72 hours, Alex?
It was incredible to do it, and I found the first part really easy, and then there was sort of a middle point, I think, sort of end of day 1, maybe sort of 30 hours in, where felt really hungry. Felt that kicked in massively, and then I woke up at the beginning of the 3rd day and felt quite lightheaded, and a little bit nauseous. So there were 2 points in my one where I felt a little bit like not great, but then after that initial sickness on day 3, I could only compare it to having spidey senses, just full clarity. Like, I was really aware of my environment, body language, you know, just noises in and around me, and had a real sort of clarity for the last sort of 12 to 15 hours, I'd say. That was incredible. So I was really glad to have experienced that real clarity moment towards the end, and just felt, as Ian said, could have gone on for longer. It was almost that point where it's like, oh God, yeah, I suppose I should eat really now. Really enjoyed it. There's definitely a couple of hard moments, but would definitely do it again and look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, amazing.
How did you find it in terms of your mood? Did you find there was any hanger in there at any points? Did you find that your temperament was a little bit shorter?
I didn't personally. I think day 2, maybe the morning of day 2, might have been the only time, because we started on Sunday afternoon. Monday was fine. Tuesday morning was probably the only point where I felt a bit irritable, maybe a little bit short in terms of my patience with people.
Is that whilst you're buttering the kids' toast, mate?
Yeah, that was hard. That was tough. Making breakfast.
Kids.
Eat the toast.
Yeah, that was tough. That is tough. I found preparing food day 2 was tough, but it wasn't tough on day 3. Sorry, it wasn't tough on the last day. The thing that I thought was interesting with Alex is the prep work that he did as well, which is probably different to what we did. I know I went out and had a massive Sunday roast and a big slab of cheesecake, and then went, right, I'm full, I better start. Whereas Alex was preparing himself. He was getting low sugars in prior, and then he almost, I think Dave pointed it out, but he almost stayed keto for like 36 hours afterwards as well. Had the bone broth, which I did the bone broth as well, which the flavors in bone broth after a 3-day fast, wow, it nearly blew my head off. And it just looks like water, to be honest. Doesn't look like anything after you've heated it up. Looks a bit suspect before you heat it up, but that was amazing. But then what was it? Was it Valentine's Day, boys? I think
there was definitely a case. I think it was Valentine's Day, because I remember bringing it up, thinking, right, guys, who's gonna tell the wife they're not going out for drinks and the food on Valentine's Day, or whatever it was.
It was.
Yeah, it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So then I dived into a Nando's after that, but overall, it was brilliant. I think the fasting takeaway that I've had is when you put your body away from the need to be digesting, which takes up so much energy physically and mentally for the body's organs to be in a constant state of digestion. That's the bit that I think is the key takeaway for people, is if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you slap some toast or some cereal or something straight into your body before your body's even had a chance to recalibrate from the evening or from the night, and then you constantly eat all the way through the day to an hour before you go to bed, where you have the final packet of crisps or a couple of biscuits or whatever it may be, and then you wake up feeling groggy, so then you're trying to take sugar hits throughout the day to constantly get yourself back in the energy cycle. They're the people that really struggle, and I think that's what fasting is able to do, is it gives your body a rest from digesting. It makes it makes the organs feel better. The inflammation, like we've spoken about, comes back down, and everything, you just become clearer. And I'm being in agency officers, seeing the meal dealers, that I used to call them, the afternoon proactive time between like 2:30 and 5 o'clock in an estate agency office. The difference in the half people that were bringing their own food in, a little bit healthier, went to the gym in the morning, versus the people that didn't go to the gym in the morning, grab a meal deal at lunchtime, poles apart in terms of success and proactive outlook. Clock watching, big difference. And I think that's the evidence which shows, the food you put in and when you put it in, and the whole sort of cocktail of that, really, which was quite interesting.
It was. I tell you, but backing that up as well, there, speaking to our friendly nutritionist, Dimitri, a conversation with him, he enlightened me to something about eating in the morning. And it was the choice of food will dictate which way your body's going to take its source of food in the morning. So it was really, really, really interesting, this, especially for me, with somebody who's got a bit of a problem with sugars. And effectively, once you start, if you put sugar into your body first thing in the morning, your body will use that as its preferred method of fuel for the day and start to look for it elsewhere. So if you start with sugar, it runs out of sugar, it craves the sugar. Whereas if you start with high protein and fiber in the mornings and not sugar, it will take the keto route, assuming that you've not loaded up massively the previous night before. But it was a bit like, once something's in motion, it's easier to keep it in motion than it is to swap and change sources. So I think Alex referred to it, and I loved when he did it. He said it's like your body going from petrol to electric. Which fuel source are you using? But I thought that was really important, the morning thing, because it's something that I've never really paid much attention to. I look at the calories and the foods that I'm eating on a daily basis, but not really at what times, other than at nighttime to look after my sleep. But if I'm starting the engines in the morning on my body, I'm going to want them to go for electric or the keto way as opposed to the sugar way. So that was really important. A bit of information there. So I just thought I'd chuck that in for anybody who's listening, that, the choice of food that you take in the morning will make a huge impact to what happens to your body and your brain and everything else going on throughout the rest of the day. Really interesting.
If you look at the gut health itself, like serotonin levels, they say 90% of serotonin levels are created in your gut.
Yeah.
So again, going back to what Ian was saying about it and what you're saying about that, Dave, like, people grab for that. Like, if you're looking at your mood element to it throughout the day, your mood is dictated by your gut. So ultimately, like, if you're looking from a biological side to it, are you resetting your mood, or are you fueling what's in your gut to actually give you a better boost? So like you said, a lot of people go for sugar, caffeine, coffee, teas. I need to pick me up, but it's like, is that the correct way? Like, a lot of the time I do a 16-8, but if I break it in the morning, I always break it with yogurt. So I look at, like, bios in your gut, and that's my only food source I'll have if I'm, I don't know, like Ian was saying, if I've gone for a run or something like that and I want to have something at least to fuel it, I'll go for a bit more lighter. And
do you try and go for high fats, low sugar within the yogurt choice that you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, and actually, what's quite interesting is that a lot of people go for fat free, but actually fat free's got high sugar content in it, so it's not actually any beneficial to that. And actually, the choice of it, you think it's yogurt, but it's not actually like proper bio yogurt. It's just a bit like Dimitri said before. It's like almost like a churned, commercialized version of it that make you think it's yogurt, but actually it's probably a load of shit anyway.
It's got enough in it to qualify as yogurt, but it's not.
Yeah,
Yogurt.
yeah. It's like we're not going to put it as yogurt, but it looks like yogurt on the packaging. But one point I wanted to say was like I did a 48 in January, and going back to the food for sources, I did a 5k run on the 24th, and then I did a 5k on the 47th hour. And actually, my time sped up by 2 minutes within that period of time. Just in that period of time, like the speed I actually managed to achieve that, and that was actually at 47 hours. So, like what Ian was saying about, like, you know, the actual Alex was saying about, he alluded to it. When I was in that run, I had a period of it was like hunter-gatherer mode came on, and I felt so sharp and so light that I could do it. And a lot of people you talk to when you talk about fasting, they go, "Oh, where'd you get your energy sources from? How are you going to do that?" And it's like a lot of people associate that if you haven't eaten for 3 or 4 hours, you've got no chance of.
Yeah,
it's like we're everyone's on, going back to the car analogy. It's like everyone's on like reserves on the red light on the tank, and that's it. Like they forget that actually the body has all these reserves left over.
Yeah.
But we're almost conditioned in society to believe that unless we've eaten something for 3 or 4 hours, then we're going to basically die of starvation.
Isn't it?
Like that limitless focus, like you've taken the little pill,
Yeah.
and it's that focus, that
Yeah.
periphery and all that sort of stuff. Do you know one thing I took away from the episode for the people that haven't fasted? So we talk about intermittent fasting, and I think that's quite a common theme for people nowadays. Like all of us are talking about having whether it be a 16-8 or whatever it might be. But where he talked about No Munch Monday, and for those people that are venturing into trying a full day 24-hour fast for the first time, well, that's actually quite a cool idea to get people into it. You know, they've had a bit of a full weekend, which most do, right? And then head into Monday and use that as your opportunity to hit that reset button. Well, that was quite a cool idea.
Yeah, it was. It makes me think a little bit about this. So with all of the research that obviously we've all done on this, it's leading me down the path that realistically we should be fasting majority of the time and not using it as something that you would put in maybe once a week. I mean, are we just, as a nation, as human beings, are we just eating too much shit? I mean, I think the answer is yes to that.
Dave, was it last week the stats came out, 1 billion people are classed overweight?
Right, okay.
And how many are in Western society?
Sorry?
How many of that billion are in Western society?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's so difficult these days because we're so quick for dopamine hits. We've spoken about it on a couple of different episodes, you know, whether it's our addiction to our mobile phone for notifications and alerts or WhatsApps, or whether it's the addiction to caffeine, you know, coffee, caffeine, or whether it's the addiction to sugar and sweetness and that kind of dopamine hit you get from, you know, seeing some fruit pastels and eating one. You know, they are tasty. Like it's very difficult to not just grab a cookie, or, you know, to not just open the fridge up and go, oh, I'll just eat that snack bar in the side. It is very, very difficult, but I think fasting allows you to have a bit of balance. The No Munch Monday thing is so important. If you ever want to weigh yourself, you always have to weigh yourself across 3 days to get a true average of what your weight is. And although a lot of people will calorie restrict daily, the reality is the calorie levels should actually be based across a week. So you don't impact yourself that much on a daily basis, but across the week is where you can really have an impact. And if you have a big Mother's Day Sunday roast, you know, like I did on Sunday, because you take your mum out for roast and the mother-in-law was over for pancakes in the morning, you know, there's probably the best part of 4,000 calories consumed on that day. You just go into Monday and you do a fast and have a single meal, you know, that's 600-700 calories. You're almost in balance, you know, straight off the bat, just by being a little bit sensible with it. So I think that's something which makes a big difference, actually. But I think more than the intermittent fasting, you know, going back onto Alex, 5 days, there's definitely a lot of value in that. Did anyone watch that video? Did anyone watch the Amazon Prime thing, The Healer Within? Did you watch it?
I did. Watched it pretty much straight after, mate. You mentioned it on the pod. Wow, those guys go through like some ridiculous fasting.
Is that the Australian brothers?
Here you go. These guys.
Yeah.
When I heard you talk about it, I thought, didn't they go into the outback for 20 days? Is that what you said on the?
Yeah.
20 days. Yeah, 20 days normal fast, I think it was, and then 20 days on was it liquid? Remember it?
Yeah, like fruit smoothies.
Fruit smoothies. That's what they did. They blended everything, didn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's some going.
Because it was down to one of the brothers having a bad injury, right? And he only felt good when he was fasted. What was the result of the 40 day? I haven't watched this yet, and I want to. But what was the result?
Well, the front brother here, the one on the right hand side, is the one that had a back injury, and he was meant to be a professional sports athlete, but had a back injury, ended up in a wheelchair, and realised that the only time he wasn't in pain was when he was fasting. So both of the brothers ended up playing around a little bit with fasting. They decided to go full blown into it. So they went to the outback to do 20 days, shaved their heads, drank a certain type of water that had minerals and salts and the right stuff that you needed in it. Camped out there for 20 days, scrubbed their body of all the toxins in the local lake in a particular way, and just went full blown into it. But the whole part of it was obviously not about weight loss, or although it was a mental challenge, it was about the body resetting. It was about clearing the body. You imagine seeing a human body, we've all seen it with all the organs, around your torso. Think of them all black, and their goal was to basically flush the black away so that they were naturally back to the way they should have been. And some of the stories in it about people that had healed themselves from leukemia and things like that was like mind-blowing. Really, really mind-blowing. I mean, they, as you can see on the front there, they did look like concentration camp victims by the end of it. But they were full-blown refugee lookalikes. But it was very, very interesting at the same time. The story and the biology of it was the real bit that kind of got me. So it made a 3-day fast feel quite easy after I'd watched that video.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? I mean, it's great. These huge benefits. So we've got like this amazing machine of a body that can adapt, it can mold, it can repair itself. And it just seems like all we're doing as humans is just trying to spend most of our time attacking the shit out of it with everything that we're doing with regards to the foods that we're eating, everything else. What's this? So the addiction to sugar and the availability to food. I think, do I really need it?
Yeah.
So it's the addiction to sugar and the ability to food. Yeah.
Someone just comment on how easy it is to kind of put the wrong food in your body, on the Facebook group here, because so true. Everything. I'm so guilty. Like with Dimitri, the first thing we realized when I started working with him last year is that I was just snack barring, Grenade protein bar, ready-made protein shake, protein yogurt, just the quick wins, even like, the Eat Natural kind of peanut bar and things like that, just constantly on the go, just thinking, right, it's got 10 grams of protein, it's got 15 grams of protein, it will be all right. But quickly realizing that all I'm doing to my body with all of this ready-made protein, cheap protein in reality, was making it really difficult to digest. So although I was training hard, running lots, relatively good on my calorie restriction, just eating the wrong stuff, making it really difficult for my body to digest it, and started flipping it into chicken thighs rather than a Grenade bar, and a healthy wrap rather than a sandwich, for example, and getting a protein shake like Dave said in the morning, or when I first started eating, rather than something sugary. The difference of how I perform just mentally is mind-blowing from having the natural foods. And funnily enough, I'm quite keen at the moment to get into being back on that page. And I thought, I find it really difficult with kids, work and running and stuff like that to actually not just cheat, not just do the quick stuff. So the other day, I actually started designing the perfect day's meals. So I've got it in my notes, and I've basically started designing, what does my body need for me for someone that does the running on a daily basis to just be able to eat the same thing every day, so that I don't have to make the decisions, the choices. I eat that at lunchtime, I eat that in the afternoon, I eat that at dinner. Could I actually do that with a single meal while still intermittent fasting? And I just started playing around with that for exactly what we're talking about, to try and eradicate the squeeze of some of the unnatural foods, or the non-whole foods, basically. I've not quite finished it, but
Does it look like a lot of chicken and rice?
I'll tell you where I'm at the moment. So the first thing that I would do after the gym, Greek yogurt with a spoonful of my protein powder in it, mixed with some berries and some dried cranberries. That's my first kind of go-to thing. So I get my protein in there, my Greek yogurt, my fruit, and my cranberries. Then at lunchtime, 2 boiled eggs with some spinach and some ground beef, and then an apple afterwards. And then in the afternoon, I was going to go with my Wade shake, a handful of raisins and some almonds, just to keep me where I need to with my running glycogen as well. For dinner, sliced tomatoes, half an avocado, ovs. Then, depending on what day, I would have sweet potato with peas mixed in it for my green, and then I'd either have salmon, steak, or chicken alternately, and then I would have on top of the meat some jalapeno and black beans mixed in, and then an orange afterwards for my vitamin C. That's where I'm at to on what I can see as like the perfect day's food. Gives me enough protein, gives me enough glycogen for running, enough fats, without actually eating anything that's not man-made, bar my Wade protein shake. But
Yeah, I've got Intercept here. Does anyone ever seen the clip with that guy quite a few years ago? He was doing the weightlifting. He was like, fish and rice.
White fish and rice cakes.
Yeah.
Rice cakes. Fish,
I remember the documentary on him.
and fishes and rice cakes. Like that. But I see. I really get what you're saying, right, Ian, and that's again like off the back of you doing the ultras and listening to you, and then like going into that process. Like I've said to Kel, like we've really planned out our meals now. Really planned them out. How we have what we're having for dinner, each thing. So we're eradicating the stuff in the house to go for the easy fixes. You know what I mean? It's very easy to buy the chocolate bars and everything like that. At the moment, like Kel's birthday was the other day, I asked my mum to get some lint balls for her. She bought this massive bowl of them, so they're sat in the kitchen up on the top of the cabinet like lint balls every time you go in the kitchen. But like apart from that, going into the fridge, healthy, like, and having those pre-made stuff that you can eat and snack on. I think that's what I think I got away with Alex a lot from the podcast. It was like the preparation of the thought process going into it all. Like, how are you prepping yourself for the week ahead? Are you like coming to Thursday and you've got nothing in the house and it's a quick, we'll go to the car and get a pizza?
Yeah. We actually food prep quite a bit. We did do before the nutritionist, but it actually made some drastic changes to what I put in the food prep. But just to give you an idea of what food prep looks like in our house. So I'll go Aldi over the weekend, pack of 10 sausages, they get done, bacon, that gets done as well. So these are cooked and then they're put in like sandwich bags or little packages in the fridge. We also do a big mixed veg, which includes low carb vegetables. So we'll put sweet potato instead of normal potato in there, mushrooms, peppers, the whole 9 yards. So a big tray of it gets put in. We'll do a rice. And what else do we do? So we've got the sausage, broccoli as well. And eggs, we'll do a full 12-pack boiled eggs. So we boil them until they're pretty much cooked. They've still got a gooey egg in them, and then you just heat them up in warm water for about a minute or so. But when we go to the fridge, it massively helps on the cravings and the snackings. And when you know that everything in there, for me, it's all keto. There's no sugars in there. It's all the right type of things. So berries at the bottom of the fridge. Berries are really, really good for you. Very low in sugar, believe it or not. Berries, when people think they're quite high. And then the eggs. So when you go down, you can kind of utilize it for a bit of a snack. There's a full breakfast pretty much in there if you want. The tea would be then, if we had tea at night, it'd be cook one piece of meat, maybe a fresh piece of chicken, fish, or steak, spoonful of the mixed vegetables, some broccoli, maybe even an egg on there as well if you wanted to, but it massively helps. And it's not that difficult to do, you know. It really isn't that hard. And when you see the benefits of being able to go to the fridge every 2 minutes and just pick something up and know that it's not gonna do you any harm, is amazing.
Did you see this recently? They did a child study on eggs, and they did an 18-month study on 2 different halves of a class.
Yeah.
Based on the kids that had 1 egg a day and the kids that didn't have an egg a day. And after 18 months, the IQ levels of the kids that had an egg a day was like drastically enhanced.
Wow.
above the chart of what a child should be growing at, should be in terms of educational charting, versus the ones that didn't.
It's 18%.
18%
Yeah,
up on the ones that didn't.
Yeah,
And
because
then they kind of highlighted the fact that with an egg, what you have to remember is egg in one capsule has everything needed for a life form to grow. So to consume all of those goods and nutrients where a life form can grow inside that shell, very obvious, but also very powerful for kids that eat eggs, which I thought was mind-blowing, really.
Well, we found the reason why Kel and I had the same conversations, because we're looking obviously at our twins, and I know they say girls usually develop quicker than boys, but Erin is very, very switched on. Like Kel was saying, like the development of her is actually above a level, and that girl loves eggs. Whereas Ted is not, he doesn't really love eggs. Like you put in there, he's not interested. She will literally always eats egg. You've got egg in your hand, she wants a bit of that. And Kel was saying, we were only having that conversation. Kel's like, I looked at this study and she's probably more switched on because the amount of egg that she eats on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But like even things like that, like going back to what you're saying about yogurt, we've now taken that out of the house of like the children's yogurts and all that sort of side to it. We originally had that process, and now it's a case of like the kids will have natural yogurt with me, Greek yogurt that will have it with me, and they prefer that. It's just very easy to train the children, getting those like, you know, dopamine hits of sugar, easy to have one of those like nice, pretty things that they want, the Peppa Pig pots, but you're actually training them into the adulthood to have this weird relationship with food that they are it's normal, but actually shouldn't be.
Yeah, totally agree. My 7-year-old versus my 2-year-old, thinking about and much more aware of it with the 2-year-old, and she'll eat the Greek yogurt, whereas the 7-year-old will only eat a Greek yogurt if there's a little spoonful of honey mixed into it. She needs that little sweet tooth because she's been used to having the munch, you know, the petit foie or whatever it may be throughout her whole life. And the same thing in the morning, the 2-year-old, eggy, daddy, can I have some of your eggy, loves the eggs, absolutely loves it. 7-year-old not interested, she wants pancakes, you know. And it's hard because you think, right, how do we change that? Fortunately, she's really good with her fruit, but yeah, the 2-year-old could easily be influenced by what Grace has, or she wants it. She wants chicken. In fact, if you give her a chicken nugget, she doesn't want the bread. She takes the breading off. She only wants the chicken. And it's like, wow, like why are we tarnishing her when she actually just wants to eat the bowl of chili, smash it, bolognese, just wants the mince. Like it's crazy, you know, how negatively you can influence a child at such a young age by giving them the wrong diet, basically.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't make me think about everything that we do. I mean, we look at the time frames in fasting that allow our bodies to rejuvenate and recoup and get better. I mean, what would happen? I mean, I fully believe that if a human was born into the world and you didn't feed it anything, let's assume that the mindfulness is there and everything else, but from a dietary point of view, you fed only whole foods, I don't think you'd ever get ill. I really don't think you'd ever get ill. I think most 90% plus of illnesses are self-caused. And I think that this is becoming more and more prominent at the moment, and hopefully some changes will be coming. But it's quite apparent that if we're needing to give ourselves a couple of hours break away from the food a day, or once a month take 5 days off it, maybe it's not just fucking good for us at all at the what we're eating, and we need to be having a real holistic look at everything that we're trying to do and put into the human body. It's like putting diesel in a Ferrari, as far as I can see at the moment. Yeah, I still do it, which is nuts.
Some of those studies, though, for, you know, like the tribes that are still living like in the Amazonian rainforest, or like that are just totally totally away from modern day culture. You know, they've got no phones. They're still living in that kind of older methods. They've run the studies on them. 0 cancer, 0 suicidal scenarios, no mental health issues, no gut related issues, totally clean, no issues whatsoever from a mental point of view or from a physical point of view. And that's because, you know, they're eating the way the body is meant to eat, right? And I was talking to one of the mums on the playground this week, and we were talking about homework for the 7-year-old, and she was saying how her daughter gets so easily distracted, and like you'll ask her to do something and then she's just staring out the window. And I was like, yeah, we have the same problem with Grace sometimes, where she just can't focus at all. And it does get me thinking that I think that's food related. There's obviously hormonal things going on when you're 7, but I think it's food related, because you think like, yeah.
I was to say, like, from the ADHD part, one of the main reasons why I've gotten into like cold water therapy and the fasting element has been the holistic look on how I'm managing my mindset. And I've noticed massive differences in the intermittent fasting since I've started it, because I look back and like former Rob life before doing this, and I now work out why I couldn't focus on stuff. One is discipline, of dopamine discipline, like Alex was saying on that. But 2, about sugars, caffeine, coffee in the morning, bread, toast, all that sort of side to it. I was like, no wonder my brain couldn't get to where it was, because I needed to have some sort of reset to it. That's why I did it. And Kel educated me on that. My partner Kel, she's got type 2 bipolar. And one of the things that she worked out was, when she worked out that part, she didn't want to be medicated like you would be. So she's gone for the lowest dosage, but most of her stuff that she does is a holistic approach to it. And one of them she got me into was talking about fasting. That's where I actually started it. And she was like, maybe you should look at this, because I do this to reset sometimes myself. If I'm struggling with my bipolar, I go into a fast, I reset, and it resets my whole body, resets my mindset. I don't have to increase my medication. So there is a massive correlation with that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Start looking at everything I'm putting into myself going forward and just changing it. I mean, the next question from the back of this is, would fasting be required if you were to change your diet to 90% of the time not eating things that we know are potentially bad for us? So like cutting out wheat, for example, and sugars and artificial sugars.
Processed. If it's got a list of ingredients on the back of the packet, then remove it.
That'd be a nice experiment, wouldn't it? Somebody goes 6 to 8 weeks just eating clean foods, and then somebody eats normally and has a fast twice in that period.
At the end of the pod, have I just heard you suggest a challenge for the group?
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Anybody want to do 6 months of not eating any sugar, potato, anything at all?
Like, you're going from one extreme to the other now.
Yeah,
6 years.
Yeah, that's it.
But on that story, obviously one of the first episodes we had, we mentioned him on this, but Dimitri, you know, with obviously his health issues that he'd had, Crohn's disease, he cured himself through taking the sugars and just eating the whole foods and taking the bad oils. Quite literally cured himself from Crohn's disease, an uncurable disease, through exactly that. So it's the evidence is there. It all comes down to the big D, discipline. You know?
The big thing on that part, Ian, as well, is we've got very easy as a society to go to the doctors to find some form of medication to resolve an issue, rather than actually looking at first what is going into the body before thinking how much sleep you're getting and stuff like that. There should be surveys around, like, if you're eating, like, you know, you like your meal deals, and then you've got not getting sleep, and you're drinking a lot of alcohol, and you're doing all sorts of stuff, and you're not sleeping at, like, of course your body's not gonna feel good. It's gonna have certain issues with it. So
that brings a whole different debate to the table, though, doesn't it? The East versus West debate we had around, you know, Western society is very much about cure, whereas Eastern seems more prevention.
Yeah,
and if we could adopt more of the prevention attitude, then I think we would have a lot less strain on the NHS. We would have a lot fewer people being diagnosed with mental well-being issues. But it takes a complete overhaul of society, and that's just unlikely to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, people need to ask why they're in the positions that they're in, don't they, I suppose? But don't get me involved on the NHS. Jesus Christ. So I'm going to just get out of this quick now before I can.
Well, you know the answer, because for like on Sunday for Mother's Day, we went to the restaurant, took my mum there for a 5 o'clock evening meal, and when we got there, it was a set menu, so it was 28 quid, starter, main, dessert. So you feel obliged to, obviously you're paying for all three, so you have all three. But when we got home from that, after having, I can't remember, I think I had soup, then I had the double lambs, I had like a full plate of dinner, and then I had chocolate brownie, shared it with the little one. I was so stuffed, honestly, so stuffed, but I felt horrible for the rest of the evening. Didn't sleep very well. Woke up in the morning, felt hungry where my body had been digesting, felt sloggy, and I was ill. Actually, I've been ill since, to be fair. Literally, like caught the cold. I haven't caught a cold since Christmas. I got all the way through Christmas, and I put that down to just that. That's the big difference. You know, it's that I just drained the body of all its reserves by eating too much and eating nonsense, and it gave me my first cold in about 4 or 5 months. So, yeah, there you go. I think that's
to be fair, 10 marathons in 10 minutes probably didn't help either.
It was the first weekend that I'd not done a marathon. I got ill.
Yeah. That's probably what made you ill. Yeah.
You got to keep running, mate.
Yeah. My
kryptonite is not doing the ultra marathons.
Brilliant.
Oh dear. But yeah, it was a great episode with Alex. We really appreciate him coming on. Rob, what's next on the schedule? Rob, Dave, obviously this Friday is this episode. What's next Friday? Have we got that penciled in?
Next Friday we have got. Let me get this right before I say it. We've got James Burke, the action coach, on. Great episode. Another one with me and you. That one, Ian. There, some great stories in there. It's a great listen. That one actually. Really about taking ownership of what you're doing, where you can go, and opening up the possibilities for human progress. It's a great little podcast, great conversation, and tune in and listen to it.
Yeah, if you feel like you need a little shot in the arm with a bit of motivation and drive, that is an episode to listen to, definitely. Not just for business owners either, just general life sort of outlook. I thought really, really good. And we got some cracking guests. We've obviously got Masters of NLP coming up. We've got a Royal Marine coming up. So we've got some real first class guests. So if you are listening and you haven't subscribed, definitely do. And we will be back next week with another episode of Project Peak Performance. Thanks again to Alex. And if you fancy fasting, drop it in the group. We'll make you accountable. 24 hours, 48 hours, 5 days, whatever you want to do. If you want to get involved, drop it in the group. We'll keep the accountability. And I'm sure one of the pack members will jump on with you as well. Yep. Dave's still got to do his 72-hour. James has got to do his as well. Me and Rob are going for 5 days starting now. So see you all soon.